Chapter 48, Snake Hunt and a Glimpse Beyond. Beneath the cold moonlight, snow dusted the dense pine forest surrounding the ancient Calhelm castle. Cleve, the Null Snow agent, addressed Theo and Evelyn. Due to the confirmed possibility of a mole within their ranks, she explained this mission was strictly limited to the three of them, the two already involved, and herself. Their target was Serpent Season, an assassin organization. As trained swordsmen, they theoretically held the advantage in direct confrontation, Cleve noted, her voice muffled slightly by her mask. However, they were significantly outnumbered, facing enemies who likely knew the terrain like the back of their hand. Whatever happened, she warned sternly, they must not let their guard down for an instant. Theo acknowledged her caution with a curt understood. Inside the castle's grand hall, two Serpent Season members were sorting through documents, preparing to evacuate. One, identifiable by the familiar mask worn by the previously captured assassin, remarked that the document disposal was almost complete. They planned to leave as soon as their comrade returned. The other noted it had been a little less than 2 hours. The returning assassin should be back soon. Casually, he tossed a small, orb-like device. It suddenly erupted, filling the hall with dense smoke. An ambush! Before the assassins could react, Cleve blurred through the smoke, a whirlwind of precise strikes. One assassin gasped as her blade found its mark, collapsing moments later, cursing his fate. Cleve scanned the clearing smoke, planting her foot firmly as she declared the upper area cleared. She instructed Evelyn to assist her in securing the main floor, while Theo was tasked with infiltrating the basement. Theo, impressed by Cleve's speed in dispatching 3 opponents almost instantly, acknowledged the order, replying, "Yes, ma'am." Theo didn't hesitate, leaping down towards the lower levels. If the blueprints provided during the briefing were accurate, the stairs leading directly to the basement should be right ahead. As he descended, his senses flared, detecting multiple hidden threats. Tiny, almost invisible needles shot from the walls. Theo reacted instantly, dodging them as he continued his descent, the needles pinging harmlessly off the stone around him. He landed softly, immediately using his hatchling synchro skill to read the area's information. The system confirmed his suspicions. Not only were there traps, but enemy combatants were lying in wait for an ambush. Without pausing, Theo channeled his power, using the system to get blades from his storage. He activated Thunder Dragon Breathing, black lightning crackling around him as he unleashed Dragon Mark. The technique surged forward, preemptively striking the hidden assassins before they could spring their trap. One, caught completely off guard, could only utter a bewildered "H-how" before being consumed by the dark energy. Theo pushed onwards, the path now clear, but the resistance telling. If security was this tight, even on the approach, he reasoned, there must be something significant hidden deeper within the basement. A bead of sweat traced a path down his temple. Rounding a corner into a chamber stained crimson, a figure in red priestly robes stood before a grotesque altar made of blood and bone. The priest turned, sniffing the air with disdain. "Oh my," he remarked, declaring he could smell the stench of impurity from Theo's presence. To interrupt sacred prayer time with slaughter. The priest tooted, calling Theo an impatient follower. Theo's eyes widened in recognition and alarm. The Holy Demon Church. He knew them well from his past life. They were a dangerous cult, preaching of an impending apocalypse and a descending savior, manipulating the ignorant masses. Crucially, they were the hidden culprits behind the devastating Great War that would eventually shatter the Empire. The Blood Priest smiled thinly, noting Theo seemed to know who he was. Theo remained silent, focusing his senses, using hatchling synchro again, this time to read the surrounding flow of mana. He felt a chill, a mysterious, corrupted mana, flowing in patterns that defied the basic rules, emanated from the priest's broken open mind gate, a source of power fundamentally different from anything he knew. Was this the so-called grace the blood priests were always rambling about? The priest chuckled sadly, observing that Theo was clearly still a non-believer. But that was all right. he assured Theo benevolently, because he would grant Theo the distinct honor of becoming a sacrifice for the one and only true God. A wave of oppressive, bloody energy surged towards Theo. He instinctively moved to block, his sword meeting the priest's outstretched hand. The impact jarred him. The priest's hand felt unnaturally hard, like stone rather than flesh. Sparks flew as Theo parried the priest's follow-up strikes, the strange power behind them pushing him back. Theo dodged another blow, countering with a swift, whirling strike of his own. His blade connected, but the priest's hand merely showed superficial damage, the flesh beneath unnaturally resilient. How skybot astonits? The priest had stopped his full-powered attack with relative ease, his hand already regenerating the minor wounds. Theo grimaced, tasting blood. This man was supposedly just a blood priest, part of the lowest rung of the holy demon church. Yet he possessed this level of power? And worse, using the triple dragon's claw here was too risky. The resulting explosion could bury him alive along with the priest. But simple mana-imbued attacks weren't working either. What could he possibly do? What could he achieve with the sword currently in his hand? His mind raced, recalling the contrasting sword philosophies OSA and Julius had presented. Julius, explosive and destructive strength, the foundation of swordsmanship, death itself. OSA, the root of swordsmanship, blossoming life from the sword. Life and death, living in violence. Julius had asked if he thought these interpretations were polar opposites. Two opposing swords. The priest raised his hands, chanting, "Oh, dear Lord, this young sheep is spilling precious blood." He prepared another powerful attack, imploring his God to accept this pitiable young sheep as a sacrifice. The floor cracked under the gathered energy. But in that instant, Theo saw it. Life and death weren't truly opposites. They were a natural cycle. Death always awaited the end of life, and using death as nutrient, life blossomed anew. They weren't two powers, but one. If he could apply that principle, gather the force wasted by applying it too widely, condense the contrasting energies of destruction and vitality from both his mentor's teachings, gather it all into a single flash of light. The priest sneered, calling Theo foolish, asking if he hadn't realized yet that his sword simply didn't work on him, blocking the path with his unnaturally tough hand. Theo surged forward, sword aimed true, unleashing the newly conceived technique, Dragon Flash. The attack, a fusion of violent darkness and brilliant life, struck the priest's hand. The priest noted it was louder, but seemed no different than before. Then his eyes widened in shock. The attack wasn't just powerful, it felt alive, burrowing through his defenses, erupting outwards in a devastating burst of black and white energy, leaving behind only splattered remains. The defeated priest, his form dissipating, rasped that Theo had attained knowledge during slaughter. He called Theo a seed of evil, vowing he couldn't be allowed to sully the Lord's world any longer. As the priest crumbled, Theo lunged forward, placing his hand on the dissolving figure's head, activating hatchling Synchro once more, this time to read the target's memories. He needed to use this chance to figure out the source of the holy demon church's strange power. Energy surged into him, twisting and distorting his perception, pulling his consciousness. He felt himself floating in a vast, star-filled void. This was completely different from any other time he'd read memories. It felt like he'd been physically transferred somewhere else. He felt an overwhelming presence. His system interface flickered, displaying corrupted text for his active quest, followed by a blaring red warning. Warning: you have encountered an enemy who is at a far higher level. Please run away. What was this? A colossal, indistinct entity loomed before him, its voice echoing not in his ears, but directly in his soul, demanding, "Who are you? What are you that you disturb?" The void filled with countless, piercing turquoise eyes. "My sweet slumber?